Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review for Teen Titans Go to the Movies. And what Teen Titans Go to the Movies is essentially about is we center on the character of Robin, and basically where the Teen Titans are right now. There is everyone's pretty much having a movie made about them. You know, everyone's these really famous superheroes, and the Teen Titans really want to be taken seriously. Robin's always wanted his own movie, and unfortunately, this woman Jade Wilson, who's making these movies, tells him that no one really takes him seriously. She can't make a movie unless he finds a foe to beat and finds some sort of arch nemesis. And when Slade is in town, he thinks that Slade will be that, will fit that billing very well. So him and the Teen Titans go out hoping to make Slade their arch nemesis, and in turn will finally give them their movie that they've hoped for. So Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I was very conflicted with this film. I, right off the bat, am not at all the demographic for this movie, not because of what the show is, but because not only have I never seen a single episode of Teen Titans Go, I've never seen a single episode of Teen Titans, I haven't read a Teen Titans comic, I watched the trailer for the new Titans show, I've seen the trailer for this movie, I've seen some clips here and there. That's about it. I really did not have any expectations going into this film. I know the trailers did not look like the worst thing ever. I can understand why someone would not would not like this show at all, but personally, it just was a thing. I was indifferent to it, and I saw it, and a lot of people are saying this movie is a big surprise, and is this movie bad? No. But is it this great film that everyone's saying? Not for me. This is an average film. It's much better than what I think it could have ended up being, but it still isn't anything that extraordinary. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the voice cast. Now, once again, is the cast in this movie amazing or anything? No, but I do think everyone did do a pretty solid job, particularly Scott Menville as the voice of Robin. I know he's played this character since the original, and he does do a very good job here. You get that joyfulness, and he's very rootable. He wants this movie to be made, and you really do feel for Robin. He's someone who is a sidekick to Batman, and he really is not getting the credit that he really thinks he deserves, and he really does want that. He wants this movie made. He wants to be well-renowned as Batman is or as Superman is, and I really did like where they end up going with him. I think he definitely, out of everyone, has the most depth, for sure. He definitely does have a pretty good arc, and I did like where his character does end up going, and I think overall he did do a pretty good job here. I really did enjoy him in this role. As far as the rest of the Teen Titans go, I mean, they're fine. They do work well together for the most part. You definitely do see that chemistry here. Who really did impress me in this film, though, surprisingly, was actually Will Arnett as Slade. I was not expecting much from this character. I was expecting him to be very generic and just very cartoony. And sure, he is, but he really does embrace it. He really does go for this more ridiculous side of Slade Wilson. Someone who you can tell is actually very fearful of the Teen Titans as the movie goes on, but he tries to always one-up them. He always tries to top them, and I really did love where they end up taking him. I think he was actually a pretty good villain in this movie. I actually did feel his presence throughout the film, and I think overall he did do a pretty good job here. As far as everyone else goes, for the most part, I think everyone was pretty good. Kristen Bell, I actually really did like as a character of Jade Wilson. Like I said, this is someone who she's trying to make a movie for all the superheroes, and basically, where they end up going with her, it is quite predictable, which I'll get to that with the story and things like that, but I think overall she did a good job. Nicolas Cage as Superman, he's pretty much what you'd expect. He does not have like a huge freak out or anything. He actually plays a pretty reserved Superman, but I thought he was pretty well casted, as were all of the other superheroes for the most part. Halsey, actually I didn't think was that bad, and I thought Lil Yachty wasn't really that bad either. Jimmy Kimmel had nothing to do. He's completely silent as Batman, so if you're worried about Jimmy Kimmel, he literally has nothing to do in the film. But really, I think the cast, they do what they need to do overall. They do play, they did overall seem like they were having fun in this film, and that's definitely something I will give the film overall. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, which the directors for this film, for the most part, are pretty much unknown. They have not directed a film before, and it shows, but it also doesn't. I will say something this film does very well is that it is incredibly self-aware, and the jokes on that front work very well. The film It knows that it's really stupid. It knows that a lot of people don't really like the show, and I think that the comedy does work for the most part there. When it goes into the more kiddie type territory, it really did not work for me. I thought some of those jokes really did not land at all. And when it tries to go for that heart, when it tries to like tug at your heartstrings a bit, it does feel pretty forced, and it does not work as well as it really should. But for the most part, I think the directing was much better than it could have been. It is actually very well directed. You can tell that these directors, they knew what kind of movie they were trying to make. They were not at all trying to apologize for it, and I definitely will give them credit for it. I love when a director just does, whatever they want to do. They don't try to restrain themselves. They don't try to just cater to audiences, and I think they actually did that pretty well. In terms of the writing here, the film is a bit of a mess. Here's the thing. The main story, I actually really do like here. I love this idea that the Teen Titans are these guys that they try to be normal superheroes, but because of how obnoxious and how ridiculous they are, people are just not really taking them seriously. They look at them as jokes throughout the movie constantly. People are just saying that they're simply just sidekicks, and they don't deserve to have a movie made about them. And sure, it's self-aware in that way, but I actually really did like that narrative. I like that idea. There's a lot of places you can take that. There's some really other interesting directions they go in. For Robin to have this movie made about him, there's a lot of potential there with him having this movie made, and you can see why he wanted them to make the movie and things like that. The problem is most of the characters, not all, but most of the Teen Titans that we're following, I just really did not find myself liking that much. They are very one-note. There's really not much to them, and I did actually find them quite obnoxious at points. Particularly Beast Boy, I really thought was getting on my nerves. He's just someone who, he's trying to be so cool and hip, and he keeps spewing out all these, like, weird colloquialisms, and I just found him really annoying. I understand what they're trying to do with him, but there just isn't really anything to these characters besides Robin, and they're very one-note, and you'd think maybe they actually do change, but they really don't. They really don't evolve at all. They don't really grow, and I really did not think they really were that great of friends to Robin either. Particularly in this one direction in the film, which involves Robin and him, being told that he can make the movie. Jade does eventually give them a chance, and basically he tells them, okay, if you want this movie made about us, you gotta be on your best behavior, you just no shenanigans or anything like that. We then see a montage of them causing all this havoc and doing all these ridiculous pranks, and it's very hard to root for these characters when things like that are happening. The film clearly, when Robin is telling them to get lost, it wants you to be against him, but I was like, no, get rid of them. They are absolutely causing tons of problems, and you really don't need them at all. So I was actually siding with Robin in that regard, and I don't really think we were supposed to be. But other than that, they really did not get on my nerves too much. It really was just a couple scenes here and there. Other than that, I thought that the writing for them was all right. I think they did a good job with it for the most part. And like I said, something I really will give this film is that it is very self-aware, and it is not at all apologizing for it. And sure, sometimes those jokes can get a bit annoying, but for the most part, they actually worked quite well. There's a really great joke involving Batman v Superman that I thought was honestly pretty funny. Yes, the Green Lantern joke is in there. Yes, the Deadpool joke is in there. And they actually don't get too annoying. They really only say it once, and they know eventually when to quit with it, and I think they did that pretty well. But something else the movie did surprisingly very well is it caters to the non-fans as well. For those who really don't like this show, they are aware of that. There are many times where a lot of the characters will call them out for being obnoxious and for doing all these ridiculous things. Like they say, like Slade will say something like, oh, are you going to distract me with waffles or something like that? And you'll see Cyborg briefly take out a waffle. And I actually did think that was pretty clever the way they did that. It's like, oh, they know that the fans don't like this and they are acknowledging it. And I thought that was actually pretty well done the way they did that. Now, again, for me, I'm really indifferent to this show. I haven't seen it. I have not seen the original Teen Titans show, so it's really whatever to me. But I did actually think they did that pretty well. They could have easily just maintained the, they easily could have catered to the, like, very little kiddie crowd, but they actually didn't. They did actually do a mixture of both, and I think they did that pretty well here. But the biggest problem with this film, besides, like I said, the characters not really going through much of anything, is that the story is incredibly predictable. Where it ends up going, it doesn't really go anywhere that you really expect it to. It really goes pretty much everywhere you expect it to. Slade's plan in the movie is basically the exact same thing as Screenslaver and Incredibles 2, except a lesser version of that. And you can pretty much tell where it's going to go. Kristen Bell's character also is incredibly predictable. Literally, look at her name. Look, her name is Jade Wilson. Where do you think she ends up going? It's really not subtle at all in that way. There are, like I said, some very interesting developments, but it just never really went anywhere that interesting for me. But it wasn't in a way where I was bored. Like, I can't really say I was bored by this movie because I was overall entertained by quite a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of jabs at even Marvel and things like that. The film literally opens with this blatant parody of the Marvel Studios logo, and I actually thought, again, that was pretty clever the way they did that. Yes, Stan Lee does have a gratuitous cameo in this movie, and they do make note of it, and I thought that was actually pretty funny. So yeah, I did think that the writing, like I said, it was pretty 50-50 for me. Some things I really liked, some things I really didn't, and that's really the best way to sum it up. The animation here I thought was actually really good. It definitely felt very well timed and things like that, and I really did enjoy the world overall. I thought there was a lot of detail to it, and I definitely did enjoy the animation style here overall. Did it feel at times like I was watching a TV show? Yes, it very much did, but I think for the most part the animation was pretty good. But something else I think this film actually did very well is it actually incorporates different styles of animation. Obviously, throughout most of it, it is the simple flash animation, which is fine, but there actually is a really good sequence, including stop motion, that I really wish I could show you. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to find it or anything, so I'm just going to say it's really cool. I actually thought it was really creative the way they handled it, and it's very similar to the stop motion scene in Captain Underpants, if you guys remember that last year. Very similar to that. Really liked the way it was done, and I thought that it was actually very well handled. I really enjoyed the stop motion there. I actually really also liked the music in this movie. I didn't think there was enough of it, though. There's one song they sing in particular, the song called the upbeat inspirational song about life, and ever since I saw the movie, I really can't stop playing this song. It's very catchy, and I actually really do enjoy it a lot, and I think that the music, when it's here, it's actually really well done, and it's very memorable. But again, there's simply not enough of it. I needed a little bit more music there, and I felt like they just didn't fully commit to the idea of this being a musical. It's just every so often they'll burst out into song. I think they needed to commit a little bit more to that. The editing, the film wasn't ever boring. I do think it's a bit too short, though. I think there's a lot of things that do unfortunately get a bit shortchanged. I needed more for Starfire. I needed more for Beast Boy. I needed more arcs for these characters overall, because like I said, I really only cared about Rob. And that's the only character I really did care about that much, and the other Teen Titans just was not really there, and I don't really think they handled that well. The film does have a nice message of, it being okay to be a little silly, and that, you don't necessarily have to be serious to be a hero. It is a good message overall, but it just never really went anywhere that interesting for me, and I think they could have dived a lot deeper into some things. Again, I'm not, saying that you need all this complex stuff. This isn't like the previous film I reviewed or anything, like Mission Impossible Fallout or anything, but I just needed a little bit more, and it just simply wasn't there. I will say, though, the mid-credit scene of this movie, I think, is worth the price of admission alone. Where they end up going with it, I truly did not expect, and I think if you are fans of the original Teen Titans show, you are going to lose your shit at what you end up seeing. I'm sure a lot of people know about it. I've heard about, a lot of people have been talking about it on the internet and such, but it's definitely something that I think will probably please a lot of fans for sure. I'm interested in seeing really where they're going to go with it. Like I said, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, it's an alright film. I don't think it's this amazing movie or anything. I don't think it's quite as good as everyone else has been saying. Did it really annoy me? I mean, yeah, there were points here and there where I was a bit annoyed. Like, there's this poop scene that I think went on for a little too long, and I thought there was also, you know, some fart jokes and things like that. But the film does know when to ride the line between self-referential humor and just really gross-out humor. It does go for the former rather than the latter a lot. I think it did succeed in that. It has some characters that aren't the most developed and aren't necessarily the most likable, but I think it is overall a lot better than what it really could have ended up being. It's nothing I'm really gonna remember. It's nothing really that amazing, but it's much better than what I think it really could have been. And I am gonna give Teen Titans Go to the movies overall a C+. Like I said, guys, it's nothing amazing. It's nothing you need to rush out in the theaters to see, but if you have kids, I mean, I think you'll honestly be entertained. I don't think it's a film that your kids will be just be entertained to. I do think there's enough stuff for kids and parents in there, but like I said, it's nothing really on the level of like Incredibles 2 or even Hotel Transylvania 3. I think both of those are worth seeing way more than this one. But either way, guys, in my review of Teen Titans Go to the Movies, let me know what you guys thought overall, left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.